So thank you so much for allowing me to interview you for the LaGrange Bicentennial.
My privilege.
So it shouldn't take too long. There's only a couple questions that we have for you. But I'll start off just for the recording's sake, that today is July 22nd at 11:30 a.m. My name is Rachel Stickle, and I will be helping the LaGrange Association Library with oral interviews for the LaGrange Bicentennial this year. If you want to introduce yourself and just tell me kind of what you do a little bit.
Sure. My name is Paul Lent. I'm the Presbyterian, or one of the Presbyterian ministers of the Freedom Plains United Presbyterian Church in LaGrange here.
Awesome. So we'll start off with some just like general questions. Do you have a favorite book?
Well, I have a lot of favorite books, but I'm a big fan of Norman MacLean, A River Runs Through It. I'll say that.
All right. Awesome. So you mentioned that you work at the Presbyterian Church. How did you get started in that realm of things? Has your family been part of the church community for a while, or is this like a first generation?
So I grew up in the church. I grew up in New Paltz, not terribly far away. But no one in my family has been a minister, so I'm kind of the first and perhaps the last, who knows. But I came to LaGrange. I've been here 19 years. I was working at a church in New York City, and this congregation was looking for a minister to replace a man by the name of Bill Boak, who'd been here 37 years. And they interviewed, and we went through a process, and I ended up moving my family up here about 19 years ago.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you've been around here for so long. I'm sure you know a little bit about the history of LaGrange just from being here for so long and interacting with the community. Is that why you chose LaGrange? Just because there was?
Yes, I came here to serve this congregation. I was familiar with the Hudson Valley, and of course, loved growing up in the Hudson Valley, and I love living here now. So that was part of it as well.
All right. Do you have a favorite place in LaGrange, just in your spare time, or?
Favorite place in LaGrange?
Yeah.
I'm very thankful. I have 2 college-age kids now that have grown up for the last 19 years here in LaGrange, and very thankful for the wonderful parks and sports facilities that LaGrange has developed. I've spent lots of times on the soccer field and feel that's a great strength. I do have to say my favorite place would be the church facility here on Route 55. We are a vibrant church community, but we're also, we consider ourselves a community hub in some ways. We had a yoga class this morning. We have ARC camp program going on. We have 12-step programs. The building's used, and lots of people from the community come in and out of here. And I love the way that the church community and facility interacts with the larger community. I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, that sounds great that you are pulling from different aspects of the community, so you can really create like a hub, like you said, for people. Do you have any tidbits of LaGrange history or things that have happened to you in LaGrange that you would like to share?
LaGrange, I serve a church that was founded here in 1829. The building was dedicated. The church was dedicated the church formed in 1827 as an offshoot of the Pleasant Valley Church. So I know quite a bit about the history of LaGrange from the history of the church, between the uh, Wade's Meat Market and the church and a few other things. For a long time, this was a very small place.
Hmm.
And, in recent years, certainly since 55 and the Takana came through, LaGrange has sort of grown tremendously. But it's still nice to see some of the remnants and some of the community infrastructure that's been here for a long time, and feel a part of something that is changing, evolving, but also has some deep roots here in the Hudson Valley as far as a place and with a history. Yeah. Um, I have lots of historical facts about the church, but I'm not sure how much people want to know all of that.
If you have like a couple of them that you would like to share, that would be great.
We have wonderful old pictures of the church. Before 1850, the church was really, it wouldn't have had a steeple or the columns that people see now. It was just would have looked more like a schoolhouse than they called it a meeting house. And in 1850s, they added the tower, they reversed it before the front door came through the cemetery before 1858. The cemetery out to the south of the church now. And they renovated the whole thing. There were stables on each side, so you could put your horse in the barn there on a Sunday morning when you brought it to church. There was a nice high platform where you could get the kids off the buckboard when you drove them into town. Uh, so very different place. But and when the church itself, there was a renovation done in the late 50s. And one of the driving forces to do this renovation was to add an education building, but the real drive was they needed indoor plumbing. Before 1858, I think if you came to church, there was an outhouse out the back that was part of the Sunday morning situation. And so indoor plumbing came to Freedom Plains in 1958, which I think was probably pretty late for most of the area, but this was a pretty small town country place before that.
Awesome. Yeah, I grew up in Poughkeepsie, so I'm not terribly familiar with LaGrange, but I did work at the LaGrange Library, and I've learned some things over the course of that. But just to hear the history is always fascinating about it. Have you had a chance to go to the library at all? The new
I
one
absolutely
that's in
have.
town?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Since
I'm
they've
so
moved,
glad
I
that we
think
moved
that it's
over.
nice to see them in their new location, much closer. I now walk over and drop off books. It's kind of nice to walk over. Um,
Yeah.
my wife is she gets 5 or 6 books, I think, well, at least a month, maybe more. So she's the real user of the library, but it's a great resource here in the community.
Yeah, for sure. How do you think LaGrange can forge a stronger sense of identity? Do you have any ideas for that?
I saw that question, and it's an important one. I was excited about the town center, much of the town center ideas that were developed and working on maybe 12 years ago. That sort of stalled here in Freedom Plains. I think that, figuring out how we can have restaurants and some, within LaGrange would be something. But I think the deeper challenge that we have is it's not so much just LaGrange's challenge, but all of our community's challenge. Sort of our civic infrastructure is. I'm concerned. We are very fortunate to have a very active Rotary Club here in LaGrange. We have some other civic organizations. We still have people willing to coach Little League and soccer, but it's getting harder and harder to get volunteers and people to be involved in sort of civic life. And so the way we can thank people and celebrate groups when they come together, and I think that that's important. We need to find ways to be supportive of that civic infrastructure that's out there, people that volunteer their time for the community, from the Historical Society to the Rotary to all of the different community organizations and community institutions that are out there. People seem to join things less and less, and I don't know what that means for the future, but I think our civic infrastructure depends on that. And I hope that we can find a way to encourage and support organizations that exist in LaGrange. And we are fortunate to have a lot of things already in place.
Mhm. Yeah. What else? I was going to mention something. Just the fact that like the church has a bunch of community things going on, like the yoga and fostering that sense of community. And then with the LaGrange Bicentennial, I think that's going to be a great way to have people come together and celebrate LaGrange as a town, and hopefully people can come together and bond over that. Is there anything else that you wanted to add about either your life personally or?
No, I mean, I've been very fortunate. I've raised my children here in LaGrange. The school systems are, very positive. The community, I feel that it is a wonderful place to live and a great place to raise a family. And it's got a good heart here in LaGrange. And so I'm very thankful to have spent this chapter of my life here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, if that's all the questions that I have. Again, thank you so much for allowing me to interview you for the Bicentennial. If you think of anything else that you want to add to our knowledge base for the programs coming up, you're more than welcome to talk to Anna or myself again. We can always do another interview if you think of something. But thank you so much for this morning.
All right. You have a great day.
You too.
All right.